I think the biggest change is that the IT services industry has to shift from being IT oriented and more domain orientation. In other words, it is not the knowledge of the software and the hardware, but it is the knowledge of the applications in different domains, such as healthcare domain, financial services domain. I think it's very critical that we have equally good domain expertise, not just technical engineering expertise. This to me is a fundamental shift. Second major shift taking place is that we really do see consumerization of the technology, especially with mobility platforms, where the whole dependence that IT industry has on a PC-centric culture. How do you get out of that trap? What is your core competency may actually become a core liability, and how do you become mobile technology agnostic in the process? I think that's very key. Probably two quick things. One is that we know how to create service mixes, whether it's a BPO service, on the old days, call center service, whether it's a service about enterprise applications. We need to create a talent mix of domains. I don't think we have enough bankers in the industry. We don't have enough accountants in the industry as professionals who can guide us. In other words, in consultancy business, you can see that the expertise about the client side is equally important. So to me, creating the talent mix is going to be a biggest opportunity and a challenge. In fact, some of the domain experts are becoming IT-centric, especially accounting firms such as Ernst & Young, PwC. Many of the human resource companies are becoming very savvy at IT. So my view is that we have non-traditional competition that we need to understand. So that's clearly one that I would quickly recommend. My second recommendation is the automate. I think the industry got organized very rightfully because of the number of talented people that we had and the pool. But I think it cannot sustain in the long run. I often call this as cobbler's children phenomenon. While we make our enterprise customers very technology savvy, all the way to cybersecurity, for example, to sensing devices, to typical ERP systems, but our own internal IT systems are really backward. We really have not invested enough for low overheads or whatever reason, and we have not really automated. I don't think IT services industry in general, and specifically in India, can sustain itself unless it automates everything. In other words, automation becomes a great enabling tool to get much greater productivity from the same talented pool of people that we have. I think it's partly a challenge because it has more to do with the mindset between how much you invest in the capital investment, what we call the CapEx dollars, or how much you invest into the operating expenses, just like we talk to our clients. I mean, every IT company talks to their clients to see whether they have a CapEx model or the other model. And I think this is where we have to really figure out how to balance capital investment versus, in fact, a sort of an operating expense investment. And therefore, whether the company should be margin driven or not, or is it possible, in fact, to massively invest? And if you do invest, then the investment has to be, in fact, much more on the side of what I would call, mobility side enormously. In other words, it's not the investment in the buildings per se, but how do you get into the cloud technology internally? How do you get into the cybersecurity internally? How do you have, in fact, mobile devices available, accessible to every employee so they can be a lot more productive? So to me, I think it's a challenge and an opportunity at the same time. Indian IT services industry has an enormous potential to grow from about $130 billion right now to $500 billion industry very quickly, no later than by 2020. And here are the three main reasons why this is likely to happen looking at the customer side. The first major reason is that there is a macro realignment of the world, especially the US-India alignment is likely to grow very fast, and therefore there will be like a most favored nation treatment done in terms of alignment between US and India. This will increase the size of the Indian IT services share of the US market. I think it's very strategic, and it is pretty much there with the new Indian government and new leadership over there, and the lame duck leadership here who has nothing to lose except to make the alignment for other strategic reasons, such as defense, for example, such as infrastructure, for example. But Indian IT services will benefit enormously. So to me, at a macro level, there's a great, great opportunity. Secondly, at the customer level, there are two key opportunities. One is the traditional legacy systems back just like to the Y2K days. The large incumbent companies would give up those spaces, giving opportunity to emerging economy IT services, especially India, where we are very competent, very dominant. So in the traditional back office, typical maintenance, repair, taking care of the legacy systems becomes a much bigger piece of the pie that we need to know how to bid for properly, etc., etc. The third and probably more exciting is clearly the budgets of the IT departments in large enterprises are no longer under the CIO's jurisdiction. Estimates are running that as much as 40 to 45% of the total spending done is going to be in the hands of the chief marketing officer. With the social media driving enterprise customers themselves, lots of money being spent online ordering, etc., the world is becoming e-commerce essentially in the customer domain, and they're reallocating their money. But they will not reallocate capital dollars, as we had in the CIO organization, the Chief Information Officer, in the old legacy days where you paid more for the hardware and less for the software. This one will be all application-based, all utility-based pricing, software as a service, as they call it. So my view is that I think we need to understand how to price it right to capture this new share. And there again, just as I mentioned, the domain expertise is more important than IT expertise. We just don't know the language of the marketers. If you talk to any large Indian IT company, they really don't know marketing 101 themselves. Now, how can you talk to a customer who is a chief marketing officer and do not even talk their language, let alone their concerns? So to me, having a large scale functional expertise, especially marketing, especially online procurement and online selling, especially, in fact, customer support expertise in some fashion, domain expertise, I'm talking about, not the IT expertise, is very important.